The elevator doors opened on the 14th floor, and I just stood there for a second, holding my badge against my chest like it might float away. Senior financial analyst. That's what the little placard outside my office had said for 3 years. But my director, had just shaken my hand across her mahogany desk and said, "Congratulations, you're our new controller, effective the 1st of next month." Controller. At 31. I'd worked 60-hour weeks for that title. I'd skipped vacations, stayed late during every quarter close, eaten lunch at my desk more times than I could count. I called my husband on the way down to the parking garage because I wanted him to be the first person I told. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey," I said. "I got it. The promotion. I'm the new controller." There was a pause, not a long one, but long enough. "Oh," he said. "Nice. Hey, can you stop at Costco? We're out of paper towels." I sat in my car for a few minutes after I hung up. The garage was dim and smelled like exhaust. I told myself he was probably distracted. He worked from home as a freelance video editor, and sometimes he got deep into a project and came up for air sounding like he'd just landed from another planet. I told myself it was fine. I stopped at Costco. I bought the paper towels. My husband. I'll call him by what I called him in my head those last few months, which was the man I married, had always had a complicated relationship with my career. Early on, he'd been supportive, proud even. He used to brag to his friends that his wife worked in finance. But somewhere around the time I got my second raise and he lost his biggest client, something shifted. He started making these small comments. "You're never home. You care more about that job than this marriage. Why does everything have to be about your career?" I tried to be understanding. Freelancing is unstable, his self-esteem took hits, mine didn't. I made sure not to talk about work too much at dinner. I tried. What I didn't know, what I had no way of knowing that evening when I walked in the door carrying a 12-pack of paper towel rolls, was that he'd already made a decision that would unravel everything. He was sitting on the couch with his laptop open when I got home. I set the Costco bag on the kitchen counter and started unpacking it. "So I was thinking," he said, not looking up from the screen. "About what?" "My brother and his girlfriend. They're in a tough spot." I turned around. His brother, I'll call him the brother, was 26 and had been bouncing between cities for 2 years, picking up gig work, never staying anywhere long enough to build anything. His girlfriend was the same. Nice enough people individually. Together, they were a hurricane. "What kind of tough spot?" I asked. "They got evicted." I waited. "I told them they could stay with us for a while." I set down the paper towels. "You told them," I said. "Already. It's just temporary. A few weeks, maybe a month. You didn't ask me." He finally looked up. "He's my brother." "This is my house too." "Our house?" "Exactly. Our house. Which means you ask me before you invite people to live in it." He closed the laptop. That meant we were officially in a fight. He only closed the laptop when he wanted to give a conversation his full condescending attention. "I don't understand why you're making this a big deal," he said. "Family helps family. That's what we do." "When did we decide that?" "It's not something you decide. It just is." I took a breath. I thought about the promotion, about what I'd said yes to. More responsibility, more pressure, longer hours during close. I thought about how much I needed our home to be a place I could come back to and breathe. And I thought about the last time the brother had stayed with us 4 years ago, just for a weekend, and how he'd left beer bottles on my desk and used my good towels to clean up a spill on the bathroom floor. "How long is a while?" I asked. "I don't know. Until they get on their feet." "That's not an answer. You're being cold." "I'm asking a reasonable question." He stood up and walked into the kitchen, not toward me, past me, to the refrigerator. He opened it, stared into it, closed it. A performance of indifference. "They're coming Friday," he said. I already told them yes. And that was the end of the conversation, apparently. Friday came. I came home from work to find the guest room already rearranged, the closet half cleared out, and two enormous duffel bags and a guitar case in the hallway. The brother and his girlfriend were on the couch eating chips and watching something on our TV. My husband was in the kitchen making his famous chili like it was a dinner party. The brother looked up and said, "Hey, congrats on the big promotion, by the way," Marcus told us. Marcus. My husband's name is Marcus. That's the last time I'll use it. Thanks, I said. I changed out of my work clothes in our bedroom with the door closed and sat on the edge of the bed for a while. I could hear laughter from the living room. The brother's girlfriend had a loud laugh, the kind that bounced off walls. The first week was uncomfortable but manageable. The second week, things started to slip. Someone used the last of my coffee without replacing it. The dishes in the sink were never the ones I dirtied. The bathroom schedule became a negotiation. My husband acted like I was being neurotic every time I brought it up. "You're home for like 10 hours a day," he said one night. "They're here all the time. Of course they use more of everything. They could replace what they use. They're broke, that's why they're here. Then maybe, can you just not be like this? Please, like this." I started to hate that phrase, like this. I started to hate that phrase. Like this meant demanding, unreasonable, career-obsessed, too much. 3 weeks in, I found out about the money. I logged into our joint checking account to transfer funds for a car insurance payment, and I saw a withdrawal I didn't recognize. $1,800. Made 3 days earlier. I came into the home office, my husband's workspace, the room he'd set up with his monitors and his ring light and his editing equipment, and I asked him about it. He didn't even look up. "I gave it to my brother," he said, "for the security deposit on their next place." Without telling me, "I knew you'd make it a thing. It's our money. It's my money too. That was my paycheck deposit." He swiveled his chair around then. "And that's the problem, isn't it? Your paycheck, your promotion, your money. Everything is yours. You don't actually think of this as a partnership." I stared at him. I had paid 60% of our mortgage for the past 2 years because his client situation had been rough. I had paid for both our cars. I had never once held it over him, never made him feel small about it, or at least I thought I hadn't. "I think of this as a partnership," I said. "That's why I wanted to be consulted. Consulting you means waiting while you analyze everything to death and make me feel guilty for wanting to help my family." I left the room. I didn't trust myself to keep talking. That night I called my best friend. I'll call her my best friend, because that's what she is, and I told her everything. She's the kind of person who listens without interrupting and then says the one thing you needed to hear. "You know you can leave, right?" she said. "I'm not there yet. I know. I'm just saying, the door exists." The door existed. I thought about that for a long time after we hung up. I also thought about something practical. The joint account. The next morning, before work, I walked into my bank and opened a new individual checking account. I redirected my direct deposit there. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because $1,800 had disappeared without my knowledge, and I had a mortgage to pay, and I was not going to watch my financial stability get handed out piece by piece to someone else's life. I didn't tell my husband. The weeks that followed had a particular quality, the quality of a slow leak. Everything looked fine from the outside, and everything was quietly getting worse. The brother and his girlfriend were still there. The security deposit had apparently fallen through. "They were looking," my husband said. "They were trying. Be patient. I worked. I came home. I made dinner, or I didn't. I slept on my side of the bed, and my husband slept on his, and the distance between us was not just physical. The thing that finally broke it was a Tuesday night in October. I'd had a brutal day. We were 3 days from quarter close. I had a discrepancy in the receivables report that I could not locate, and I'd been on calls from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. I came home wanting a shower, a glass of wine, and silence. I walked in, and the living room was loud. The brother's girlfriend and 2 of her friends, people I had never seen before in my house, were watching something on the TV at a volume that vibrated the walls. The kitchen counter was covered in takeout containers. The good stemware, the glasses my grandmother had given us as a wedding gift, were sitting out being used for whatever they were drinking. I put my bag down. I said, as calmly as I could, "Hey, who are these people?" The girlfriend looked over. Just some friends, don't worry. This isn't a place where people just come over, I said. This is my home. The girlfriend rolled her eyes. Not dramatically. Just enough. My husband appeared from the bedroom. He took one look at my face and said, "Can we not do this right now?" "In the kitchen," I said. He followed me in. "I've had strangers in my house," I said quietly, because I was very aware of the audience. "They're her friends. I don't know them. I didn't say they could be here. You can't pre-approve every person who comes through the door." "When there's strangers using my grandmother's glasses?" "Yes, actually I can. You're embarrassing me." I looked at him. He was embarrassed. In my house, by me asking not to have strangers help themselves to my things. "I want them gone by the time I'm out of the shower," I said. "And I want your brother and his girlfriend to have a real timeline. Not a while, a date. You don't get to make ultimatums." I just did. I took my shower. When I came out, the friends were gone. The girlfriend was in the guest room with the door shut. My husband was at his monitors with headphones on. The international signal for this conversation is over. I sat in the kitchen alone and thought about the door my best friend had mentioned. The next morning, I called a real estate attorney. I'd been thinking about buying a small condo as an investment property for almost 2 years, ever since the housing market in our area had started showing the signs of a slow correction. I had the down payment sitting in a money market account, separate from everything, money I'd been saving before my husband and I even got together. I hadn't moved on it because life kept happening and timing is hard, and I kept talking myself out of it. I stopped talking myself out of it. I won't go through every step, because some of it is personal and some of it is just paperwork. But within 6 weeks, I had made an offer, had it accepted, gone through inspection, and closed on a 2-bedroom condo, 8 miles from where we lived. I did it on my lunch breaks, and after work, and on the one Saturday a month my husband spent at his parents' house without me. I used my individual account, my own credit, my own down payment. My name only on the deed. I told no one except my best friend and my attorney. During those 6 weeks, things at home continued their slow collapse. My husband and I had a fight about the grocery bill. He thought I was being controlling because I started buying my own groceries separately and labeling them. We had a fight about the Netflix password. He'd given it to the brother without asking, and when I changed it, he acted like I'd done something criminal. We had a fight about the volume of the TV, about whether I was allowed to work at the kitchen table, about the fact that I sometimes worked on weekends. "You married a career," he said once, "not a person." I didn't respond. I was past responding. The morning after I got the keys to the condo, I sat in the parking lot of the building and cried. Not sad tears. I don't know what kind exactly. Relief, maybe. Or just the release of having something that was entirely mine. A door I had a key to that no one else could open without my permission. I gave myself 2 more weeks at home. I wanted to be sure. I went to therapy. I'd been going for about a month at that point, and I talked it through. My therapist didn't tell me what to do. She asked me what I needed. I knew the answer. I also talked to a family law attorney. She told me some things that were hard to hear and some things that helped. The individual account was smart. The condo being in my name only, purchased with premarital savings and post-separation income, was a favorable position depending on how things developed. She advised me to keep records. I kept records. On a Thursday evening, while my husband was at a client meeting in the city and the brother and his girlfriend were at some concert, I packed what I needed. Not everything, just what mattered. My work equipment, my personal documents, the things I used every day, a few things that were irreplaceable. My grandmother's glasses were already wrapped in dish towels in a box. I left a letter on the kitchen counter. I'd written it 3 times before I got it right. It said what it needed to say. It wasn't mean. It wasn't dramatic. It was honest. I took my car and I drove to my condo and I unlocked the door and I walked in. The place smelled like fresh paint and a little bit like the previous owner's cleaning supplies. The rooms were empty. My footsteps were loud. I set my boxes down by the window and I stood there looking out at the parking lot and the streetlights coming on, and I thought, this is mine. I slept on an air mattress that first night. My best friend had driven over with takeout and a bottle of wine, and we sat on the floor of the empty living room and ate Thai food, and she didn't ask me if I was okay because she knew I was. I found out what happened on Saturday. He called me 14 times. I let them go to voicemail. Then he texted. Long texts, a wall of them, cycling through anger and confusion and accusations. The letter had not landed the way he expected. He seemed genuinely surprised, which surprised me. Then he showed up. I don't know how he found the address. I have a guess. I think he went through my email on the laptop we shared before I changed the password, or through some piece of mail I hadn't rerouted yet. I'm still not certain. What I know is that my intercom buzzed, and when I answered it, it was him. "Let me in," he said. "No," I said. "We need to talk. We can talk through the intercom, or you can call my attorney. Those are the options." He didn't handle that well. There was a scene in the lobby. I could hear it through the speaker. He eventually left when the building manager came out. He called my parents. He called my best friend. He told his mother I'd abandoned the family. I got a voicemail from his mother that was hard to listen to. But I talked to an attorney. I knew what I was doing and why, and what came next. What came next was the process. Slow and expensive and necessary. I'll spare you the details because they're ongoing, but I'll tell you this: the condo is mine. The individual account is mine. My paycheck is mine. My promotion, which I kept, which I have been absolutely crushing, by the way, is mine. He had to move his brother out of our house eventually, when he couldn't cover the mortgage alone, and the house went into the negotiation. I don't know where the brother and his girlfriend are now. I hope they found something stable. I genuinely do. None of this was their fault, not really. They were just the weight that revealed the crack that was already there. My therapist asked me recently what I wish I'd known earlier. I thought about it for a while. I wish I'd known that someone refusing to celebrate your success is data, not a bad day. I wish I'd known that small moments of dismissal compound. I wish I'd known that I could want more for myself without that being a character flaw. But mostly I think I know now. My condo has furniture now. Real furniture. I chose myself. There's a reading chair in the corner by the window that I sit in on Sunday mornings with coffee and whatever book I'm working through. The kitchen is small, but the light is good in the afternoons. I kept my grandmother's glasses in a cabinet where I can see them. The morning I got promoted feels like it happened to someone else. But sometimes, on the drive-in, I'll pass that parking garage and I'll think about sitting in my car holding my badge against my chest, and how I called him first because I wanted him to be happy for me. I don't call him anymore. I call my best friend, or my mom, or I just sit with it myself and let it be good, because it is. I think about that parking garage a lot. The dim light, the smell of exhaust, the way I sat in my car holding my badge and waiting for someone to be happy for me. That moment didn't feel like a warning at the time. It felt like a bad day. But I've learned, slowly and at some cost, that the small moments are never just small moments. They're information. And what you do with that information is everything. What happened to me didn't happen because my husband was a cartoon villain. It happened because I kept rounding down. He said, "Oh, nice," about the biggest professional achievement of my life, and I told myself he was distracted. He took $1,800 from our joint account without a word, and I told myself it was a rough patch. He invited people into our home, into our space, without asking me, and I told myself that family is complicated. I was a person of genuine goodwill explaining away a pattern that was right in front of me. That's not a character flaw, but it is something I had to stop doing. The thing that saved me was an anger. Anger came, but it wasn't what moved me. What moved me was clarity. One morning, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by other people's takeout containers, holding my own labeled groceries because it was the only way to have something that was mine in my own home. And I thought, I know exactly what is happening here. I'm not confused. I'm not overreacting. I see this clearly. And once I saw it clearly, I couldn't unsee it. Clarity is a kind of intelligence that nobody teaches you to trust. You're taught to compromise, to consider other perspectives, to be patient. All of that is good advice, up to a point, but there's a version of patience that's really just postponing a decision you've already made in your gut. I postponed mine for too long. When I finally stopped postponing, when I walked into my bank and opened that individual account, when I called the real estate attorney, when I made an offer on that condo, every single step felt like something clicking into place. Not reckless, considered, careful. I gathered information, I talked to professionals, I kept records. I made sure that when I moved correctly. That's the part I want to say plainly. Doing the right thing for yourself still requires you to do it right. It's not enough to feel justified. You have to think it through. You have to know the difference between a reaction and a decision. And then you have to actually do it. That part is hard in a way that's hard to describe. Not the logistics. The moment of blocking out the door, knowing that the life on the other side of it is going to look completely different. I won't pretend that wasn't scary. But I'd built something real to walk toward. I had been honest about what I needed. I had done the work. And when the intercom buzzed and I heard his voice asking to be let in, I knew, with something that felt almost like calm, that the answer was no. My condo has furniture now, the reading chair by the window, the light in the afternoons, my grandmother's glasses in a cabinet where I can see them every morning. What I took from all of this isn't a lesson so much as a reminder. The life you build quietly, with integrity and clear eyes and the willingness to do hard things, that life holds. Everything else is just noise on the other side of a door you don't have to open.